Hello again, John Turzak here. Today I'm going to answer a question for you, which is a nice question to have answered, which is how to make some really nice Neapolitan style stuffed pasta shells. Or you could also call this dish stuffed pasta shells quattro formaggio, because we're going to use 4 kinds of cheese, along with some other stuff, and then we're going to bake it in the oven. Okay, but first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop these large shells into boiling water that I have back here. Now my partner's having a little bit of a party tonight, so we're making a little bit more than we need. But I'm going to start you out with how to make the mixture that I'm suggesting that you use for the stuffing, okay? So get yourself a nice bowl, and what I have here is 4 ounces of goat cheese. I have about 1.25 cups of ricotta cheese, and I got 1.5 tablespoons of fresh chopped garlic there, okay? Now, we're going to mix this with some chopped parsley, 2, 3, 4 tablespoons, and we're going to take some onion and mushroom that I have diced down here, and we're going to saute this in some olive oil real quick. I got a hot pan right here. Now basically I'm making this dish vegetarian, but I'm going to add a little bacon on the top of this before I bake it, which is kind of an option, but for me it's not an option. I like that idea. Now, I have some fresh basil and oregano picked here. I'm going to chop all of this. Some of it's going in the stuffing, and some of it's going to be sprinkled on top of the casserole. Let's get this chopped. Fresh oregano and basil. That's chopped enough right there. So let's take 1/4 cup of chopped herbs and mix it into the cheese mixture. That's cooked enough for me. Now I'm going to take this 1 cup of chopped mushroom sauteed in olive oil with about a half to 2/3 of a cup of minced onion. Just put it right in there hot, we don't care. Let's take a quick peek at the pasta shells. They're cooking. They take time to cook, you know. Very nice, inexpensive dish to make, though. And we're going to put a little bit more olive oil in here. So we probably got about 3 tablespoons to 1/4 cup of olive oil total in there. I'm going to put about 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs in there. This is the casserole that we're going to bake this in, and I have fresh spinach in there. I'm trying to do all of this in real time to some degree, not the chopping and the prepping part, but the assembly baking part. Now, can you put spinach in here? Yes. Can you put shrimp in here? Yes. Can you put whatever you want in here? Yes. And I just want to make sure that this mixture, I'm adding another 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs to it. Let's give that a quick taste. Now you be careful about adding salt to this mixture. This mixture tastes like it might need some salt right now, but I'm not going to put any in there. I'm going to have the tomato sauce in the bottom of the casserole. We're going to have the stuffed shells. Then I'm going to sprinkle Parmesan cheese and a little bit of fresh Gorgonzola cream sauce that I have over the top. And there's going to be some Kalamata olives and capers I'm going to sprinkle over the top. All those things have salt in them. So I want to be careful about not over-salting this, because the whole dish could end up being too salty. We're ready to stuff shells here in a minute. So we'll have a couple more minutes. But we're going to set the casserole up right now real quick with the tomato sauce. And put a little tomato sauce. I got a tomato basil sauce here. I have recipes for this for you in the sauce class. Put a little bit on the bottom. I'm going to use the balance of this on the top with the gorgonzola. So these pasta shells got about 3 to 5 more minutes. I'll be back in 3 to 5 more minutes, then we're going to stuff the shells with this mix, get it in here, put the stuff on it, some breadcrumbs, some Parmesan cheese, then we're going to bake it in the oven. It's basically that simple. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, the pasta shells down here have been cooked. I rinsed them in a little bit of cool water, and some of them have a tendency to fall apart. But when you're making stuffed shells, you also have the opportunity to reassemble them a little bit if you're going to bake them in a little casserole, which is like what we're going to do. So I failed to put some pepper in here, so let me put a little bit of pepper inside of our mix. And let's give that one more taste before we stuff some shells to fill that casserole. This is good. See, I see this as a finished dish. So when I taste the stuffing, I'm not tasting the whole dish, because I know the whole dish is going to have some more flavor to it. And there's nothing wrong with that stuffing, believe me. But I purposely don't have what I would consider to be the maximum amount of salt in that it can take without being too salty, because I don't want these other things to overpower it, like I said. So that's why I don't look that crazy when I taste it, because it's not ready to eat yet, you know? So, get rid of that bad boy. All right, let's stuff some shells. And shells are not things you overstuff either, okay? There's one. 2. You'll notice I'm putting the cheese side down in the casserole because I don't want that exposed to the heat directly. I want the top of the shells gratined because they're the most bland part of the stuffed shell. So here's one that I'm putting back together that got distorted in the boiling water a little, but that's okay. I've never blanched a pot of shells where some of them didn't get distorted in the boiling process, ever. The producer, of course, is having these tonight. So we probably have enough mixture here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. We got enough for about 20 stuffed shells with this amount of mixture that I have. So if you only want to make 10 stuffed shells, make half the mixture. Of course, the stage at which I'm going to get this to before I put it in the oven, you can make it to this stage in advance and put it in the fridge. Then when it's time to eat, all you got to do is take it out and pop it in the oven and then put it on the table. So that's one thing to keep in mind about this. This is a prep and pop in the oven kind of item. All right, let's put one more shell in the middle and we're going to call it a day. See there, I got enough for about another 10. And I got 12, so I got enough here for about 20 all day. Okay. Now, and that's about what he's going to get out of it right there too. Okay, so how to finish this? Here's one suggestion. You take a little bit more of your tomato basil sauce, put a little bit on top of each shell. The important thing is that you get the gist of making the stuffed shells, not so much as you follow this recipe. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that gorgonzola cream and put that on the top of each one of these shells. And that's going to, both of these are going to drip into the whole thing here. So there's your 4 cheeses are the ricotta, the goat, the gorgonzola, and the parm. Now I'm not going to sprinkle any gorgonzola on this because I don't want to run the risk of there being too much salt on this dish, okay? So now we're going to take a little bit of fresh tomato. Not much, half a tomato here in this case, I think. And we're going to take a few Kalamata olives, and I think what I'm going to do is chop them. I don't think anybody needs a whole Kalamata olive in any one of these bites. This is kind of Mediterraneaning this up a little bit. I'm putting some capers on top of here. I'm putting the balance of the chopped oregano and basil on top of here. Parmesan cheese, freshly grated, on top of here. This is starting to taste like stuffed shells to me, without even having to taste it. Now, if you're a vegetarian, don't do this part, but I like putting bacon with this too, so I'm going to throw a few pieces of bacon on top, cooked. Nice bacon lardoons. These look really good. And I'm going to sprinkle this with a little bit of breadcrumb. This looks like fun already. And I'm not saying that so you think it looks like fun. It does look like fun to me. And let's sprinkle it with a little bit of olive oil. Not much. We want this to brown a little bit. We'll give it a little bit more parsley. And the balance of these herbs. I saved some because I didn't want to bury them all. There you go. I'm going to pop this in a 400-degree oven. It's probably going to take about 25 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that, for this to get brown, bubbly, and brown on top. Okay? So let's pop it in the oven. And I'll be back as soon as it's brown, and we'll get it out here, and we'll throw a little bit of it on a plate and figure out maybe some little garnish for it or something like that. So I'll be back when this is done in about a half an hour. All right, it's been about a half an hour. The stuffed shells, they're looking really good. And let's get them out of the oven. Oh, look at that. Get down on that one, Richard. That looks really good. Now, you don't have to do anything to this, of course. You can just set this on a table with a spoon in it, and you're good to go. In terms of this particular dish, doesn't really need anything else. Then I thought to myself, when it was bacon, if this was sitting on a coffee table or whatever, to treat this as an hors d'oeuvre, you put that spoon in there and just kind of set some stuff up next to it, like some chiffonade of radicchio, which is what I happen to have some radicchio here today, so reducing some of that. Then you can just like set up this little hors d'oeuvre station here. See, I got some crumbled cheese, some yogurt, some blue cheese, some lemon, and we're going to grate some fresh cheese on it. Now that looks like a really tasty little hors d'oeuvre right there. And if that's not enough, then I would say give yourself some nice Greek yogurt on that plate and a little bit of fresh lemon, a little bit of gorgonzola cheese, a little bit of fresh parm just for fun. You could always hit it with another round of olive oil. Now all of a sudden this is like an hors d'oeuvre, a substantial hors d'oeuvre, which is great. So treat this as an hors d'oeuvre or treat it as a main dish, whatever you want to treat it as. This is stuffed shells Neapolitan style, I call it, which is Southern Italian quattro formaggio.